I had a new grandson in September. He lives in York, and sadly, I've only spent an hour with him since he was born. There have been photos and WhatsApp video calls, but I would really love to get to know him in person. I've begun to wonder what we'll tell him about these strange times that we're living through. I hope that when he's old enough to understand that he was born at a time when COVID-19 dominated our lives, that it will be a distant memory and that life will be freer and easier for everyone. I don't know if we'll be conscious then of a difference between life before the pandemic and life after. When I look to the future, I have mixed feelings. I certainly feel concern for all the people who have lost or may still lose their jobs. I worry that money will be very tight, but it will be even harder for the government to find money for schools, hospitals, and care for the elderly. But I'm also hopeful that having had time to think about what really matters, we will focus on our priorities and be more concerned with making life better for ourselves and for everyone. It would be great if we weren't quite so keen to buy things we don't need and remembered that living more simply and driving and flying less is better for the planet. Whether we'll be conscious of a time pre-COVID and post-COVID, I don't know. Dates in our history books have traditionally been dated from a single event, the birth of Jesus Christ, with the time BC, before Christ, counting backwards down to 1, and then starting counting forwards again from 1 AD, which stands for Anno Domini and means in the year of our Lord. So we know how long ago Jesus was born, because this is 2020. It was 2020 years ago. Historians assure us that that is more or less right, to within 5 years either way. We are familiar with the nativity story. What we know comes from what people found out about Jesus when he was an adult and was well known. Luke's Gospel tells us about an angel coming to Mary, and 9 months later, the same angel telling the shepherds to go to the manger. Luke started his Gospel by saying that he was setting out to write an ordered account of what happened based on what had been passed down from eyewitnesses and Christian teachers. It's quite possible that he heard about the birth of Jesus from Mary herself, or at least from those that she told about it. Matthew's Gospel introduces us to the wise men who arrived a little while after Jesus was born. Retelling the story down the years has added details and additional meanings. Innkeeper, stable, donkey, all enrich a nativity play, but weren't part of the Gospels. We celebrate Christmas today in all sorts of ways that seem a long way from the baby born in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago. Sometimes people are concerned that in all that, the real meaning of Christmas has got lost. But as long as there are people doing what we are doing here tonight, that won't happen. Around the world, in their hundreds of millions, people are remembering not just that Jesus was born, but who he was and what he still means to us today. The traditional gospel reading for midnight mass is the beginning of John's Gospel, which proclaims, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." At a point in history, the divine became human. God was born to a mother, Mary, and a father, Joseph. This moment brought light and life, grace and truth in the form of a tiny baby. When history began to be calculated from this moment, there was a before Christ, but the time we live in is not after Christ. AD means in the year of our Lord, when God became one of us in Jesus. It was the start of a new era that hasn't yet ended. After the night that Jesus was born, the world didn't seem any different. But believers understood that things would never be the same again in the light of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and even more in the lived experience of God's presence with us now. We always live in the present and in the presence. But our history has brought us here, and our future will flow from here. What we choose to believe and to do affects our future and the future of everyone around us. Every choice of every person makes a difference. So when I tell my grandson, Robin, about Christmas 2020, I will tell him that we remembered that Jesus was born, that he was God's son, as well as the son of Mary and Joseph. I will tell Robin that Jesus taught and showed us the best way to live, and that I intend to follow him all my life, and I hope that he will too.